Hi everyone, and welcome to a preview of Thaddaeus Ropac's galleries in London's most recent exhibition, which is now open, A Focus on Painting, curated by the gallery's director, Julia Peyton-Jones. This exhibition is one of the most exciting exhibitions I've seen in a long time. What we have here is a group of really exciting, diverse artists who have come together, who are exploring painting in their own unique way. They are Alvaro Barrington, Mandy El Sayer, they are Rachel Jones, and of course, Donna Nelson. This group of artists are from all different generations, from all different points in their career, and born in all different countries. And what they are all doing is they're playing on traditions of painting. Right now in London and in the world, we are seeing a total upsurge in interest and developments in painting. We've just had exhibitions like Radical Figures at the Whitechapel Gallery, but this exhibition brings it one step further. Each artist in their own unique way is really playing with painting and what it can be. It can be on the floor, it can be a time-based work, it can be a sculpture, it can be a three-dimensional work that doesn't necessarily even have paint in it, and that is what is so exciting about this exhibition. The room that I'm standing here is an artist called Mandy El Sayer. If we look on the floor here, we can see she has screen printed all these different newsprint together. She has overlaid text from her father's diaries, from maps, from newspapers such as the Financial Times, and also more tabloid newspapers like the Metro. And what she is doing, if I look around me, is really looking at the limitless possibilities of painting. She's really looking into her family history and also of her cultural identity, exploring that through this work. Even though we don't necessarily see the figure, it is about the body and identity. But the work behind me is part of her net grid works. I absolutely love this work. What they are accumulations of what we see on the floor, but she's overlaid them with the grid. And the grid is something that throughout art history has been played with and has been nuanced and has been developed and refined and refined and refined. When we think of minimalist artists working in the 60s like Agnes Martin, she is playing with the grid. And what Mandy is doing, she's taking it that one step further by imbuing all that politicism and all her family history and then overlaying at the top. So you don't necessarily see everything right away. You have to really think and you have to look further. The centerpiece of the exhibition is really this work called Redaction Rug, a new work created with latex, muslin and pigment and layered with inked poetry. The piece began with just a dust sheet onto which two news articles were silk-screened, one concerning neoliberalism and the other with sleep problems. And that's what I think is so exciting about Mandy's work, as she's combining all these different elements as well as looking into personal and family histories. In this section of the exhibition, we are met with the work by Alvaro Barrington, who is one of the most brilliant artists around right now. He is based in London. He is one of the gallery's artists and he has curated exhibitions here, and he has also had his own work exhibited here as well. And so because he knows this space so well, he was asked to really create work in reaction to this beautiful corridor. So as we see these beautiful works that are lined as we walk on. And he's really thinking about line in this work, thinking about the line in the architecture, but also the frames within the painting. And a few years ago, Alvaro Barrington curated this fantastic exhibition called Artists I Steal From. It was essentially all the artists he admired and all the artists he wanted to adopt the brilliance from. And that's what we really see in this room as well, as him thinking about the line, thinking about the possibility of the line in painting. It's all these different things. We think of so many artists when we look at these works. We think of, de Kooning, we think of Rothko, we think of Agnes Martin. There are so many references. Alvaro Barrington's work is about identity. He grew up in Venezuela and Granada, raised by his grandmother and his aunties, who were all master sewers, and that's why he's constantly bringing back his identity and his cultures in his work. What we see in this work here, he's actually using burlap, because that's the medium that you would use for cacao in Barbados. It's all rooted back to that. And I love this quote by him. He says, "When you look at my paintings, you're encountering parts of my identity. I grew up in a culture where it was really about erasing hierarchies, where we are all participating in cultural production." The third artist in this exhibition is one of my favourite artists, Donna Nelson, an incredible American abstract artist who's really kind of pioneered the New York school since the 60s to the present day. She's actually one of Alvaro Barrington's favourite artists. He has written the most beautiful Instagram post about her work and how much she means to him, which I urge you all to check out, which is, I think, beautiful, why we would have someone like Alvaro Barrington's thread-like experimental paintings on one side of the wall and then come to Donna's work, which is really pushing the boundaries of painting. What we see here is actually a sort of three-dimensional sculpture in a way, but it's still considered painting in her eyes, and that's what's so great about this show. It's about those limitless possibilities of what paint can be. So when we encounter this work, we're really kind of struck by it because we really enter its space. It's really big, for example, it's much taller than I am, but also it's all about these chance encounters with materials, with threads. So also Donna's process is so interesting because even though we might not immediately see a body in this work, what actually, if we look closer at this, she's actually looking at the shadow of a figure. She creates these works outside and sometimes spends months, sometimes years on these works, getting it right, playing around with the sunlight, looking at different aspects. So she'll look at this life figure in front of her and constantly rework the shadows in the work. Donna Nelson is an American artist who has really revolutionized the way that we just think of painting as it is. She's giving us so much as viewers, and what we see in this work in front of me here is actually the back of the painting. We are now invited to be part of the work, to explore what goes on behind the scenes. I love that you really get a sense of the artist's studio practice, making the whole of the canvas, even the stretcher bars, come alive. And then we enter this space, and with the light coming through, it's almost kind of divine with this painting that's very kind of Helen Frankenthaler inspired. We see all these different textures, these different mediums. We see these kind of enamel-like painting. It's so different. This whole show is just expanding my whole mind about what painting is and what it can be. And then we come to a work like this, which even almost first appears as though it has rhinestones in it, but it's really just holes with the lights that burst in. It almost glitters in itself, and she's really kind of using all these different fab materials to really explain and kind of develop our ideas of painting. And then, as if to introduce us to a whole new generation of abstract painters, Julia Peyton-Jones has included the work of the fantastic artist Rachel Jones, one of the most exciting artists in London right now. I was lucky enough to see her work at the RA School Show last year, and what we see, what's beautiful about this is it's this single canvas, almost torn, and we see this work and it's almost a kind of antidote to what we're about to see and what we're about to witness. This section of the exhibition is Rachel Jones's new series entitled Slow Teething. Rachel Jones is known for these gorgeous, large-scale, kind of dazzling abstract works that are always on these kind of unstretched, unperfected canvases, and they're applied with both oil stick and oil paint, so when you get up close they really kind of create these beautiful different textures. You are completely enthralled by them. They completely take over your body in a similar way to Donna Nelson's work. Rachel Jones's work is really about exploring the internalized female body, and although her works kind of allude to this idea of the body with titles, for example, Slow Teething, and we can almost kind of project this idea of teeth in a way onto these large canvases, they're all about how do you deal with the internal, and it is through these fiery reds and these cool blues that she is able to project those internalized feelings. And as we walk on this exhibition of hers, it's all of these unstretched canvases, and then some of them are canvases large and small, and although we can kind of almost imagine figures in them, she's also really playing around with shape, with form, and with composition. So I urge you all to see this fantastic exhibition, a focus on painting that's really bringing together the most exciting artists who are experimenting with painting. What does painting even mean today? Does it mean creating oil painting and oil stick works that completely encompass you as a viewer in these dazzling like colours and forms? Yes, but it can also mean sewing in burlap, using bits of cheesecloth in your works. This show is challenging 400-500 years of what we've known as oil painting and painting in general. So I urge you all to witness this work in the flesh, because you will just be amazed, and see it at Thaddaeus Ropac Gallery until the end of October here in London.